I've got Michael Fassbender, and I'm making no sense whatsoever. So you've been working on Assassin's Creed.
That's right.
That's a far cry from Steve Jobs.
It certainly is.
Describe for me the difference between working on that and Steve Jobs, if you can.
Yeah, one character says a lot and the other doesn't. I guess it's, totally different world. We're entering a sort of an action sort of world with Assassin's Creed. Primarily, it's sort of action adventure.
There's a part of you that likes doing these things.
There is, but I do think that this one as well, in particular, is very special because the idea behind it is a very interesting one. Because the concept is that we've all got DNA memory within our DNA. So within your DNA, you carry the memory of your ancestors. So what we call instinct is that, in fact. So you know not to eat this certain thing, or why animals know when to fly south at certain times, and so that in itself I thought was a very plausible scientific theory. And I think if you can bring something that's grounded in a scientific theory into a fantasy world, then the audience will immerse themselves much deeper into that fantasy world. Kind of like The Matrix, but I think our concept is even better than The Matrix.
You have a tendency to be loyal to your directors.
I like to consider them loyal to me as well, hopefully. I just thought what Justin did with the Scottish film. Sometimes I call it
You're
by its
a man
name.
of the theatre.
Well, I'm not really. Sometimes I call it by its name, and then other times I feel like I shouldn't. I don't know why. There's no sort of consistency to it. But he just did such a phenomenal job on that, and his vision on that, and his strength on that, and just how he worked as a director with his actors, but also with the crew. I thought, we needed somebody very strong who had a vision. And Adam, his DP, Adam Archipel, the two of them together are a fantastic team. And then thankfully, Marion as well jumped on board. So yeah, we've got a great team, and I think a very interesting story.
I look forward. So this one, I remember talking to Kate at Telluride, and she described. She just thought what you did was Herculean. That was the word, really. And she admitted that you did run the lines with her every day, because people on the set were just astonished that you didn't have your paper with you.
Yeah, I mean, we would do that. I think we come from very similar sort of backgrounds in terms of how we approach the work. She likes to prepare a lot, and so do I. And then when we're at work, we like to have fun and play around and really kind of find the elasticity of the scene and the piece and what we're doing with one another. And so we would definitely run lines and just sort of keep if at certain times during the day there's setups going on. You might come back after lunch, there might be a little funk, so you just want to make sure that the machine is oiled and ready to go.
Tell me, if you can you describe the level of anxiety that this put in you?
I have to say, standing on a train track tied to it and a train approaching, I mean, I really was pretty terrified, when I sort of took on the job and sort of, the weeks sort of leading up to the first filming day. Once we started filming, I knew I was in it, and I was in it from then on, and I had to throw away all those sort of anxieties. But absolutely, leading up to that point, for lack of a better way of putting it, I was shitting myself. And she was great. I have to say, I really owe a lot to Kate. She had my back from the beginning. She's just such a supportive partner, and just she is booked me a hotel, in Big Sur. She was like, "Are you eating enough? You need to take a rest this weekend. I booked you a hotel," and she was wonderful, really wonderful, because I did feel the pressure on this one more than ever before.
And you also maybe I wondered how much did your experience to date make it possible for you to do this? In other words, you couldn't have done this a few years ago, maybe.
I'm not sure about that. It's really hard to say. You know, I know that I gave every waking hour to it. So if I wasn't working at home by myself, I was rehearsing. It was just, you know, total immersion in terms of all the hours of the day that were available to me. Would I been able to do it before? I really don't know. I can't. I think perhaps you're the person to answer that. It's hard for me to view from.
That's it. Again, it was Kate who said that that you had to rely on your film know-how on some level to pull this off.
Yeah.
You know, and how was Danny Boyle supporting?
Danny
you?
was great. I mean, you know, from the beginning he was fantastic. You know, he was. You know, I know that he was fighting for me to play the part. You know.
That was a grueling period where that must have been
there might have been some doubters.
Ego shattering there, you know.
You know that the business is the business, and you know it's always a case that there's more than one person in the frame for something, or that somebody has been approached already. By the time that it gets to me, I'm not necessarily the first person in line. I'm totally cool with that because I'm used to it. It's sort of how I sort of came through the sort of industry, and but yeah, you know, it's certain things aren't obviously nice to read, but
well, it was the Sony hack that revealed it all in a way that ordinarily would never have happened.
That's exactly right. Yeah, so it's life.
But Seth Rogen was there to support you. He said it was worse for me.
Yeah, I didn't actually know because I loved hanging out with him whether my life was in danger. He's an amazing man. He happens to be the most chilled out person I know and the most productive at the same time. He's incredible. And yeah, what was funny was that he was sort of, not responsible, but sort of, he was right at the center of it all, and then sort of in it, sort of, as we were doing the piece itself. He's great. I love Seth, and I thought he did a wonderful job. The cast, all around, were phenomenal. And getting back to Danny, I mean, when he first sort of asked me to do it, I said, I was like, well, thank you so much, I'm very flattered, but I don't look anything like the man, and are you sure? you feel this is the right choice? And he was like, well, I'm not interested in a look-alike sort of thing or an imitation. I really want to focus on the essence. And so from that moment on, that's exactly how we approached it. And then, while we were filming and sort of got to some point in the second act, I was like, let's bring out the turtleneck and the Levi's, and I think the New Balance, and let's go with this look. I think the audience will be grateful for it. And then the third act, because we've already opened up the film and gone, this is not a look-alike thing. Hopefully within 5 minutes the audience are going to go, this is not a look-alike thing, and accept the character on screen as Steve Jobs. And then sort of by the third act we managed to sort of sneak under the radar and sort of make it more aesthetically like the man himself. No,
you had some ways to and the physicality too. You were so. My question there would be, for me, the most emotional material, the material that shows who he is, the material where is with the daughter. Mm-hmm. And there's a moment in that, after that first encounter with Lisa, where you look right at us with this woe-begone sort of expression. Do you know which one I mean?
Is this when she writes when she draws on the computer? Yeah. What do I
want to know? That it opened up his humanity. You're playing Steve Jobs a certain way, and then there are openings that occur at several moments in the film where he can really become emotional.
That's right, and to see that sort of connection to his blood and his other blood, which is the machine. I thought it was a really important moment to have that sort of meeting of the two and the beginning of a relationship there. There's a rejection up to that point, and then there is an acceptance and a beginning. And I knew that was an important beat. And also like the moment where, in the second act, Lisa, played by Ripley, sort of hugs him, and there's that other sort of emotional beat, which is an uncomfortable one for him, and the way that I sort of played it in the script and in this story was that there's sort of an unease with being open with his emotions. It's not that they're not there. He just has difficulty showing them and processing them, whereas the machines are much more easy to have a relationship with in a way. You know, in this story.
Absolutely, absolutely. The question of Andy, Michael is so amazing in this, and his physicality too.
Yeah, and I watched that develop over the rehearsal weeks, you know, and he's, both him and Catherine, I have to say, super committed, you know, just very, very committed. And, you know, he spent time with Andy Hertzfeld a lot, you know, having dinners and just sort of, you know, going around his house and having long chats with him. And so that was very apparent for me, sort of watching the sort of process go from the beginning of sort of, you know, first day rehearsal, read through rather, and then through the sort of weeks that we were rehearsing and filming. It was pretty extraordinary to see.
What was the most difficult sequence to do? Was it right at the beginning when you didn't have your sea legs yet, or?
I suppose the beginning is always the time. That's the litmus test where the ideas that you have, you don't know how they're going to land or if they're going to work, and you know what's going to happen. And I think that was the same for everyone. You know, I could feel there was that energy was palpable in the air. With Danny as well, he was sort of extra sort of, you know, energetic and manic. I mean, his personality is kind of like that on set anyway. He's full of energy. So I suppose, you know, the beginning always, in this case for sure, yeah.
Yeah, he is he made it more visual. So you're writing the words, you're writing the Sorkin dialogue, but Boyle is making it into a movie.
Yeah.
Can you define how he did that in some way, in what way? Because it's not, there was a danger that this could just be like a play.
I think he was very acutely aware of that from the beginning. And he would, you know, the thing about Danny as well is he shares a lot as well on set about what he's, you know, doing and his ideas. He's actually very generous with them. And so I knew that he was going to be working with that and trying to energize the camera and the shots and the storytelling narrative through that visual sort of medium. I knew that he was focused on that. I could see that through the Steadicam shots we were doing, the coverage we were doing. And, you know, that's also, he brings his stamp. I think, you know, that sort of energy that he brings behind the camera is something that only he really does, and it's a certain style that you can recognize immediately.
So he changed the way he did each section.
Yes.
So how did that affect you had to switch it off. You had to become different with each mode of, it went digital at a certain point.
We wanted to do that too. You know, Kate and I were just talking about that, just a Q&A there. We didn't want everything to blend into one, and that was the thing, that each act would have its sort of flavor to it and different sort of rhythms. You know, there is a rhythm running through Aaron's writing, which is very specific, but then within that you can compartmentalize those rhythms. And so, you know, the first one is, you know, the visionary story, you know, the second one is the revenge act, and then the third one is the wisdom and the sort of, you know, arrival with the sort of his work. And then, of course, then there's the relationship sort of beats within each of those acts as well. So definitely having a change in time too, you know, years have passed, so what's this person like now? What have they achieved? What do they still want, and what has happened to them in their lives? And that was key for all of us. So, you know, Danny always calls the first act kind of like the punk act, you know, sort of, you know, the way that it's shot and the format.
Origin myth.
Yeah, the format and the energy of that, you know. And then the second one is that sort of luscious sort of surroundings in the opera house, and it's very much the revenge tale. And so that energy is in there as well until the crescendo with Scully, you know, which is the build-up. That's what it's leading to, you know, this sort of the revenge against what Apple did to John Scullin.
Did Daniels give you any advice?
He sure did. I mean, I was feeling sorry for myself, and then he started telling me about Newsroom. It's like I had 6 months of it. He's like, and so I was like, okay, yes, somebody did survive this. And you know, he was great. He said, you know, he gave us sort of tips on how to sort of break the rhythms down, and you know, in terms of finding the rhythms, and the rhythms are there to help you learn. And he was great. And you know, it's like stealing from Danny. You know, Danny is like, you know, Jeff. Bone dry Daniels, you know, he's just got such a dry sense of humor, and you know, again, a great wise head to have on set, and just really sort of, he's just such a consummate actor, and sort of beyond that, you know, he directs in theatre, and he just knows storytelling, and he was, again, a joy to do scenes with. You know, he responds to something that you throw at him, and he throws something back, and you know, he knows when that, you know, we're sort of dancing. It's a dance, and we relied on each other so much for that scene in particular, and all of them. But that sort of face-off.
That's where it gets really Shakespearean.
That's right.
With the father-son.
Absolutely.
And the betrayal.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah, for sure.